Welcome to another episode of Head to Head Sports. I'm your host, Brian Parker, along with my co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove. How you doing, sir?
What is going on, man?
What is going on? First and foremost, I would like to say happy birthday to one Tanaya Hargrove. What is going on?
Appreciate it. Appreciate
Oh
that.
my
Appreciate
gosh, man. Remember that child being so little itty bitty, now a grown A woman. That is amazing.
it.
Great job.
25 years old, man. 25 years old.
Yes, sir.
You know, there's a slight, I've heard people before on the show talk about a slight delay between like our mouths and what we're actually saying.
Yep.
And I figured it out. It is the backgrounds that we're using. I never had this issue before I tried this new background. So I don't know. For the next season, you might want to invest in like an actual backdrop.
Well, it's funny you say that. I actually do use a green screen instead of the graphic on but my Empower logo is projected onto the green screen behind me. Sometimes if you see me moving, you can see a little green around me. It's because I have this huge projector, one of those projectors you pull up as a green screen, and it's supposed to give you a better the screen be a little bit more consistent than if you don't have a background, and then you can kind of see pockets of the green and stuff. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at that, what's going on.
It actually delays every movement that you make. Every movement that you make, even raising your arms, is behind time. So yeah, just some advice for the next season, because I know there will be a next season. Might want to invest into actual literal backdrop.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Instead of a green screen, have a backdrop.
Exactly.
Little
backdrop with the logo on it. Yeah. We got one from my band Kendrick Cope. Perfect segue for what we're going to talk about here. Catch out, folks. January the 28th, we will be up at this place called Tropicana in the Lake Norman area. You guys check us out. We will start promptly at 10 o'clock, be ending at 1 in the morning. All of your radio alternative hits that you want to play, that you want to hear, come out. Kendrick Cope is always a good time. You messing with it right now.
I'm gonna try it for tonight and see how it works. Yeah, it looks like you're right. Everything's moving faster now.
You're in perfect time now.
Wow. Did not know that. You know what I actually thought it was, which is crazy, is because whether I use my work computer or whether I use my regular computer, I have this daggum OneDrive that backs up all of my files. And I'm thinking that it's pulling my bandwidth.
Yep. And what I'm using right now is delaying.
Yeah, I actually pause my syncing when I do the show to control my bandwidth. So that is just too funny. So what I'll do is try to see if I can bring my green screen a little bit closer to me now that I know what's been causing that to happen. How about that? You know what? I don't think I would figure that out, Rand. So yeah, way to go on that one. Not quite perfect.
No problem.
Yeah, look at that. All right. Kind of got it. All right. So now you see the green screen. But yeah, it's a high projector. So yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense now. Wow.
Yeah. Now you are no longer talking in a Chinese karate movie.
Exactly. How about that? Okay. See, guys, we are live. We do this with you live. I'm sitting here figuring out my new technical support co-host has just helped me figure out why in the world I could not figure out on all these episodes why I was so slow. And that makes so much sense now, because even when I do the other show, the other head-to-head show that airs on Thursdays now at 7 o'clock, to give that a little bit of a plug, everybody else moves pretty freely, and it's always just me.
Yeah.
But I'm the one with the background. Okay, makes total sense now. All right. Well, everybody, welcome to another episode of Head to Head. Again, I'm Brian Parker, Randall Hargrove, and we are streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as YouTube. If you go to our YouTube page, it will be under Empower TV Network. Like, share, and most importantly, subscribe, and also click that little bell because it'll let you know when we go live, as well as when there's other new content that has been added. We appreciate that. If you have a smart phone or smart TV and would like to download us, we are on Roku, like I said, and Amazon Fire TV. This show, as well as all of our other content, airs there as well. All of our previous seasons, as Randall said, that we're in season 3, and season 4 will be coming. So you can check out all those other seasons as well. It's very, very interesting. So very, very good there. Let's see here. Anthony, that green background is hurting my eyes. Just kidding. What's good, crew? Yeah. Now, I bet if it was burgundy and gold, you would have no problem with it whatsoever, Ant. So
that's a nice Philadelphia Eagle green, man.
Oh, yeah, hey, I did grow up an Eagles fan, so,
Yeah,
fly, Eagles, fly, all right. Then we'll talk about that, the upcoming games as far as the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, and is he going to be ready and all of that. But before we can get into the games ahead, man, let's talk about this crazy weekend that we just went through called Wild Card Weekend. Definitely was a snooze fest. Rand, I don't think I have seen so many games in 1 year where you spot somebody over 20 points and you come back and win. But it's starting to become a phenomenon where when they say play to the zeros, they really mean you got to play to every second is off of the clock, because, man, I'm going, the Chargers have buried the Jaguars. I picked the Jaguars in our water cooler mountain climb to win the game, and I felt so bad because all the way at halftime, it was 27-7.
It's 27-0. They jumped up 27.
Yeah. They got that late. It was 27-0. After 27-0, all Jacksonville did was score 31-3 against the Chargers. Why? What happened? 1 minute, they're keeping the brakes off of him. Trevor Lawrence, had the worst first half that a young quarterback could have. 4 interceptions. All he wanted to do was throw it to the other team. Like, he didn't know who his teammates was. But my God, the dude stood up. He threw 47 times. He hit 28 of them. Anthony says coaching matters. I guess. Damn. Coaching matters, and I guess it was all on Lombardi because he got axed after this. But yeah, so he throws 288, 4 touchdowns, 4 picks, as I said. So after those initial 4 picks, thank God he didn't throw any more. But then he went on to throw 4 touchdowns. So that was very, very interesting game. What did you think about that, Rand?
I was mega pissed off. I was mega pissed off. The only thing that pissed me off worse than that, and we'll get to this game later, is Kirk Cousins. You are an absolute freaking idiot for throwing a 3-yard pass when you need 8 yards on 4th down with the game on the line. So
yeah, as if it was 3rd down, he was Brady and forgot what down he was on. Like, bro, you know that if you don't get a first, that's the game, right?
That's your season.
You gotta. Anthony, you talking about coaching matters? Yeah, because if you don't know the situation in the game that this pass has to yield a first down or the game is literally over, I don't know what you're doing out there because you're hurting your team. So, but yeah, we'll get to that one. But yeah, so you were pissed about the Jags. I kind of wasn't, because I was like, yeah, I picked them to win, and I want to kind of have at least a decent weekend. And I came out of the weekend 3-0 until the Tampa game, because I was just hoping against all hope that Brady had one more inning to send them Cowgirls home. But I'm sure McCaffrey, IU, Kittles, and Purdy and Debo will take care of that for me. But we'll get to that one too. We'll get to that one because, Cowboy fans have been kind of quiet. And I get it, because they don't want to sit there and get ahead knowing who they have to go up against next. but I have heard a few of them, and I'm like, you know what? They gonna do it. They do. But yeah, the Jags really is the definition of no quit. I mean, you go in at halftime, you're down, nothing's been going right, and everything else, and the coach somehow does not lose the locker room at halftime, comes back out and puts a clinic together because everything that the Chargers did to you in the first half, they could not replicate that in the second half, which is just kind of crazy. They had all the momentum. They had taken the crowd out of the game. Hell, people probably left at halftime to go home. All those kind of things. And somehow when you always hear them players after the game, they talk about doesn't matter all the outside noise. It was all the guys in the locker room that believed in themselves and everything else. And half the time I hear that rant, I'm like, whatever. But I think they really did. I think they really got together and said, hey guys, we can win this game. And they like, yeah, we can win this game. And they just kept hammering away until, lo and behold, they won the damn game. So, hey, I mean, all the kudos in the world to them for that. Hey, Anthony, by the way, thanks for tuning in on YouTube. I can tell that you're coming in from YouTube, so definitely appreciate that. Mr. Algorithm appreciates that as well. So thanks a lot, buddy. But yeah, any thoughts on that game other than Brandon Staley found a sacrificial lamb to fall on that sword?
Yeah, Mr. Joe Lombardi, I was about to get to that. I was explaining in the cooler earlier this week that anytime you have a loss that bad, somebody's going to take the fall for that, man. And if it's not the head coach himself,
the defensive coordinator?
That's what I would think. I would think it was the defensive coordinator, but maybe he put it on the offensive coordinator for not being able to score, but another field goal the entire second half of the game. When you scored 27 in the first half, I mean, who knows? But
but a lot of those scores were the result of turnovers.
Yeah.
In field position. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you scored, but you scored in very good field position because the other quarterback was putting you in really good spots and stuff like that. So I get that, but I'm not saying that your defense should have replicated 4 more picks, but how about some third down stops? How about things like that where you're getting them back off the field and that way you're able to, with a secure lead, pound the ball respectably on the ground to run the clock out.
Yeah, they couldn't do any of that. They couldn't turn to the run game. That was being stuffed. So maybe that's the reason for this offensive coordinator being out of here and jobless as we sit here today, is that they couldn't use one of their best weapons, a couple of their best weapons actually, in Keenan Allen and the running back that they have, Eckler.
Yeah.
In the second half as effectively as they have in the season. So Mr. Man is up out of here. We're gonna see what they're gonna do for the off season.
Yeah, what do you think they're gonna do in the off season?
I don't know. Maybe they turn to Leftwich. I mean, that's an idea. I mean, he's up out of a job in Tampa Bay, and a lot of people don't understand the reasoning for that one, because he had a great offense going the previous couple of years. This year, they have no offensive line in Tampa. Brady falls off the tracks as well, and he becomes a scapegoat in Tampa. I don't believe that this guy has forgotten football, so he's definitely going to have another OC chance somewhere down the line with somebody. As offensive as LA is, I would think it would be a great attraction for a guy like Leftwich. You already have your running back there that can put up numbers and also score touchdowns in bunches. You got one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. And, Keenan Allen, though he's a vet, is still one of the upper echelon to wide receivers in the league. So as far as offense, man, I would go and think that the Chargers would be an ideal destination for any OC. And don't let me forget about Mike Williams, who didn't play that game because he was injured.
Right.
So Chargers, when healthy, they could put up some numbers.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I'm looking for Justin Herbert to make a huge jump next year with his progression as well. He's going to have to because um, that whole AFC uh, line of quarterbacks is just getting crazy thick as far as just top to bottom with the young guns that they got out there and everything. So, and his name is definitely in there as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how these AFC quarterbacks shake out as far as um, positioning and things like that. But when you look at the top 10 quarterbacks currently, um, most of them reside in the AFC.
Yeah, man. And I was thinking about that earlier when you talk about AFC quarterbacks. You got one out in the AFC West who probably won't be back next year. We are talking about one Mr. Derek Carr. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, he's done.
yeah.
He's done.
So I remember last show, or maybe it was a show before last, I was kind of talking about potential destinations for Derek Carr and where he might land. And I said that his name would be tied to Carolina somewhere down the line. And
Mm-hmm.
lo and behold, as I'm listening to Sports Talk Radio, WFNZ, here locally in Charlotte this morning, uh, yep, here we are. People got Derek Carr coming to Carolina as one of his possible destinations. What's your opinion on that? Um, I would be okay with it. I know Carr's a little bit long in the tooth, but he's not that old. He's 30 years of age, got a lot of football left. At least I would say 5 to 6 years of football left. Um, so I know Carolina has kind of been through some retreads before. Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, but those were all quarterbacks where you trying to, you know, they did so badly in the place that they were, but maybe we could take them and bring them to where we are and get something out of them. Derek Carr, he ain't been bad in Vegas, man. What do you think, though?
Okay, so my thing with Derek Carr is this. I think Derek Carr would be a great fit in Carolina for a couple of reasons. Um, he's mobile enough to either step up in the pocket, roll out, avoid just needless sacks. He does need to be coached on getting rid of the ball. Sometimes he does hold the ball too long because he locks in on a receiver. But there's two great tight ends that we can work him with, whether it's Trimble or Ian Thomas. We've got some wide receivers that he can push the ball down the field to really keep defenses honest. DJ Moore can get open down the field. Um, Terrence Marshall can get open down the field. Some of the other guys that were coming on, Blackshear, some of those other guys can get open. Then you've got a dynamic running game, which is what he was used to a little bit in Las Vegas with Josh Jacobs. So there's
Mm-hmm.
some pieces around him. Icky is another year in. He won't have the rookie tag on him. So now he's seen a lot of teams' best defenses. So that left side should be shored up for him. I do
Mm-hmm.
like the idea of holding on to Sam Darnold because he does provide some kind of insurance in the event Carr goes down, unless you can find a better backup. I like Darnold for the simple fact that, well, I was going to say I like him for the simple fact that he's been in the offense, but that's all going to depend on who the coach is. If it's not Steve Wilkes, and because if it's a different coach, then 9 times out of 10, they're going to bring in their own people, so Ben McAdoo won't be back. If it is Steve Wilkes, Ben McAdoo still might not be back. But we'll see about all of that. So some of it is going to come down to scheme and coaching and things like that as well. But I also hadn't even gotten to see what Matt Corral is or isn't. But even if you bring Corral back as a third stringer and then eventually put him on the practice squad, at least you can develop him a little bit. And if you're not going to keep him, get some trade value for him because you did pick him out of, I think it was the third round. So you're not really losing a lot whether you keep him or not. But I was kind of interested to see what he could do. If you think that there's a pick that just makes sense at quarterback in a later round, now you don't have to overreach in the first or second round to get your quarterback. Now you can address kind of like what you were talking about and really making that defense a strong bedrock. They already made it clear to teams that they were not willing to trade Brian Burns. and some of the other guys on the defensive side of the ball. I need to see Jeremy Chin step up next year and do a little bit more. His name was not mentioned at all. Gross Matos, I want to see those boys get busy. And like you said, putting another end opposite Brian Burns and really, really putting some front pressure on that quarterback, to me, is paramount. And have a serviceable quarterback that can not lose you games, but doesn't have to play a bunch of hero ball. I think Derek Carr is a great fit.
I think Carr is a good fit too. And for this reason, everybody is right now talking about the Carolina Panthers with the number 9 pick in the NFL draft are just automatically going to go quarterback.
No.
I've seen Anthony Richardson attached to them, who is a project out of Florida, basically because Stroud is going to be gone by that time. We all know that.
Definitely.
He's not going to last to the 9th pick. The
quarterback out of trying to get him.
Yeah, the quarterback out of Alabama, he is not going to last to the 9th pick. Correct. He is going to be gone. I see a lot of quarterback desperation in the draft going on already because I've seen Levis, which is this big athletic guy out of Kentucky. Some have got him slated number 1 overall in this coming draft, and I don't understand that at all. He's a big, tall, physical guy with a strong arm, but every time somebody sees a quarterback that's 6'4" and got a rocket for an arm, doesn't automatically mean you're going to come into the NFL and be able to be a good quarterback. I've never been with the philosophy of just because you possess the athletic traits that I'm going to draft you and teach you how to play quarterback. You should know how to play quarterback when you're in college, instead of coming on and trying to, just because you got the physical traits. If I'm Carolina, I don't draft any of these quarterbacks because I don't believe them to be in the position to draft a good one this year. I would pass on a quarterback at the number 9. So I don't know if they're going to address the quarterback position in free agency this year.
Mm-hmm.
Or get a quarterback out of the 2nd round, but I don't believe there's value in the 1st. So that's what kind of opened my eyes to Derek Carr. I think he's the best thing that we can get as far as quarterback value, because there's nothing in the draft.
Exactly. And Anthony, I'll answer both of your questions because now I see that you're on Facebook and YouTube. I'll answer your second one first. So Anthony's second question was, so why not stay with Sam for next year and draft a quarterback next year, Williams from USC?
Well, there's a couple of problems with that one. Okay, first part of the question, why not stay with Sam for next year? So staying with Sam is an up and down situation. It's mountains, peaks, and valleys with Sam. Sometimes he's good. Sometimes he's daggone awful. As you see, he was very good in the games like against Detroit, for instance. But then the final game against the Saints, it was old Sam Darnold again. He was absolutely deplorable in that game.
Yeah.
So you can't trust that. You're looking, when you're trying to get to the playoffs, your quarterback stability is probably the number 1 thing that you're looking for. You need consistency in the quarterback position. That you're going to depend on this guy to basically put up the same numbers that he will in week 6 that he will in week 16. Sam Darnold, you just can't get that. He's too up and down, and he's been that way his whole career.
And Rand, I think what that goes into describing more is Sam's not a game changer. He's not a game changer. Backup that was unfortunately drafted too high in retrospect. He can give you what a backup can do, but a backup is not meant to be in that game from start to finish. Normally, backups come in either when you're up so much that they're just putting them in, or something happens to your main guy. I can see Sam more in that kind of role where he would be a serviceable backup. But if you sat there and really asked yourself, if you just say it out loud, I have Derek Carr and I have Sam Darnold, who's starting for me today? If you say that out loud and you come up with Sam Darnold, say it louder. That's so, Randall, would you pick Carr over Jimmy G?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and
Jimmy G is a very good leader. He's a very good locker room presence. Can't take that from him. But Derek Carr puts up the numbers. And I
yes,
would take the numbers over somebody who's, um, Jimmy G is better than Sam Darnold. I'll give him that much. But he's also still very much up and down as Sam Darnold is.
very,
So he throws some very, very risky passes every now and then, and a lot of head scratchers make you say, like, why did you throw that ball and what were you looking at?
yeah.
You don't get that with Derek Carr.
Yeah, I've seen Derek Carr not have a lot of pieces around him and still be able to do things.
Yep.
I think Derek Carr's biggest issue is that he just has an inconsistency as far as coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes through coaches like I go through underwear. He goes through coordinators the same way. There's always turmoil around him, and some of that, like I said, when you got your homeboy there on your team, maybe that's probably not the best situation because you want to feed him. You want to make sure he eats. You know that his contract is laced with incentives. He already getting $28 million, but then you know that if he goes over a certain amount of receiving yards, if he gets over a certain amount of catches and things like that, that's going to sit there and help him eat even more. And when you know that the ball is in your hand 100% of the time at some point in the game, then you feel maybe a little bit more obligation to help him with his contract. Because it was a lot of times where if Devontae wasn't as the athletic beast that he is, it'd probably be a lot more interceptions because you're throwing the ball in harm's way. He's just so athletic that if you throw him a 50-50 ball, he's going to come down with them the majority of the time. Jimmy G is not going to be that guy that's going to sit there and take a lot of strikes downfield. Jimmy G is a short yard passer because the whole idea behind their offense is to get the ball out fast and let the playmakers make people miss, whether you're passing to a Debo on a slant and making him miss the first guy and streak down, whether you're getting Kittles across the middle as far as the tight end position, whether you're handing it off to the numerous amounts of backs that they've San Fran has had over the years, whether it's McCaffrey, Mostert, Raheem, all those guys that were out there. Jimmy G can kind of function when he's got all these different tools. Can he function with Carolina offense? I don't know. I would feel more comfortable if it was in Derek Carr's hands.
I would definitely feel more comfortable with Derek Carr. I mean, this year, people looked at him like he had an off year because he threw for 14 interceptions this year, and that was probably his career high.
Yeah.
But he also put up 3,500 yards with the Raiders. He also put up 24 interceptions. 24 touchdowns with the Raiders. And he did that missing some key weapons. Yes, he did have his boy Devontae Adams, but he did not have Hunter Renfrow all year long. That's
Correct.
the number 2 receiver. He probably missed like half the year. He didn't have his number 1 tight end, Darren Waller. Waller was only in like 9 games this whole year. So to put those kind of numbers up, I think Carr did a really good job. I could see the interceptions going up because he's trying to target his homeboy.
Exactly.
And his homeboy was double covered because ain't nobody else worth a covering on that.
Exactly.
On that team. It's not a threat.
Exactly. It wasn't a surprise to teams who Carr was going to try to get the ball to.
Nope, not at all.
That's what I'm saying. That says a lot for Devontae to be able to come down with most of them.
Yeah.
He's just a beast. So Anthony also says, and we'll jump to some of the other games, at the number 9 draft pick, Panthers pick what position?
So good question. I'll go back to your other question about why not draft Williams from USC, because we never did answer that. So we might not be in a position to draft him. That's the key thing to think about there. I don't see Carolina as one of those teams that's going to tank so bad that we're going to be up for the number 1 pick. We're not that talentless. We're closer to a playoff team than we are closer to a number 1 draft team.
Yes.
So I don't see us tanking and being in position to draft Williams for next year. just to answer that question. Take a look at what's going on in the NFC South, Anthony, and you'll see Tampa is tanking. They're going down the drain. Atlanta going down the drain. The Saints also going down the drain.
Right.
Carolina could easily win the division next year, probably with the same record that we have this year. So I don't think they're going to be one of those teams that's going to tank and get the number 1 pick. Now, as far as the number 9 pick, what would I do with it? Great question, man. And I answer it this way. I was kind of getting to it with the whole quarterback thing and quarterback value that I was talking about earlier. I don't believe Anthony Richardson from Florida, which is a lot of people got us tagged to this guy as our number 9 pick for the draft. I don't think the value is in that dude. He's another Cam Newton, but not as good. His accuracy, his completion percentage was 54% for college. That's college, man. 54%. So how bad do you think that's going to be when it gets to actual NFL games?
Mm-hmm.
That frightens me. So
Yeah.
I would not take a quarterback with that number 9 position. What I would do, I would take the very best wide receiver that's on the board, and there's going to be some names there at number 9, particularly the guy out of TCU. I'll look his name up in a bit, but he is the number 1 ranked wide receiver in this year's draft class. I think he'll be available at number 9. I think he will open up the Carolina Panthers offense tremendously. Give me just a second. I'll look his name up.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Anthony, the way that the Panthers need to look at this is a couple of ways. They were a DJ Moore helmet pulling off penalty from winning the South. They were a Jacoby Brissett fake spike from winning the division. They get those 2 games back or one or the other, and they win the South. Now, winning the South only means having Dallas come in and beat the brakes off of you. But they were that's how close they were to actually pulling this off when you go back and look at it. Don't even look at the other games where they kind of let them get away and stuff like that. Those were 2 clear plays in 2 different games that prevented them from winning the game because they were both extremely bad calls that went against them.
Yep.
If you give them those 2 games back, they win the division. That close. So when you go into it this year, and as Rand said, the other 3 teams are not going to get much better in the way that if you tighten your D and make your offense just a little bit incrementally better, you don't have to overreach. And because the thing is that do you really want to draft a project player with the number 9 pick, or do you want to get somebody that's starting on day 1, opposite DJ Moore? Even if you go on the defensive end, do you want to get a project player, or do you want to get somebody on day 1 that got that dog in him on the other side of Burns? So when you're looking at it like that, you need somebody that's going to come in there and play right now. You don't need no projects. People talking about, well, if you put him in a rotation, he'll be okay. Or you got to sit there and put help on his side so he doesn't get exposed and stuff like that. No. We don't need nobody to get blown up. That way, too, now you can go after a really, really needed skill position like that without having to overreach and get somebody that's going to be a project or a work in progress. And a lot of this is going to depend on who you get as your coach and what offseason moves do you make, whether it's Derek Carr. Hey, even if it's Jimmy G, if you give me Jimmy G over Sam Darnold, I'm going to say the same thing. Give me Jimmy G. We'll figure it out. If the goal is this is going to be a short-term fix. Now, I think Jimmy G is probably better suited for Houston or something like that. But you really want to sit there and say, okay, this is what our plan is going to be. Whether it's Sam Darnold / Derek Carr, this is going to be our short-term plan. If we see a guy that we like, that we know is going to be a project, draft him accordingly for a lot of reasons. Value, you're not overreaching in the draft, but also expectations. Daniel Jones spent 4 years having to prove that he was worth the number 6 overall pick out of Duke. And until this past week, until this past season, nobody believed it, even the Giants, because they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. They say, no, you got to play this year out. So that could have been a total disaster. He's actually played himself back into an opportunity that I feel like. But that was a whole lot of pain for no reason. If they had simply drafted him in the 2nd or 3rd round, they could still be at the same part now. Or they may have found it feasible to release him earlier because they hadn't invested so much in him. Either way. Now, so at number 9, hey, Panthers are in a really, really good position. I love the wide receiver pick because whoever is the quarterback, if you got more on one side and a stud like that on the other side, and then you got some good intermediary play with your tight ends, and you got backs that can actually catch the ball out of the field, out of the backfield too, you can really open up your offense, but you need a quarterback back there that can utilize all those weapons.
Yep. Quentin Johnson, TCU. Check out some highlights on YouTube. 6'4" athletic freak, runs a 4.4. Takes the top off any defense, athletic to get away from any defense as well. Not afraid to go across the middle. He could do it all.
How big is he? How much is he?
Huh?
How much does he weigh? How big is he?
I think he's 6'4", 215, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
So yeah, dude can fly, man. I would love to have him on one side, and have our God, I'm forgetting his name already. Have DJ on the other side, and open up this offense through the air. But you're right, you got to have a quarterback.
Anthony said, "Did you say 6'4" runs a 4.4? Boy."
Yes.
Yeah.
Check out some highlights on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh my God. Tell Trayvon Diggs, come on, see what you got. Oh, I would love to see that. So yeah, that's a good one. So that I can tie in Anthony's question, we'll talk about the other game that happened last Saturday as well, and that was the 49ers over the Seahawks. I was a little nervous at halftime because it was 17-16 Seattle. Seattle had scored 17 points all in the second quarter. San Fran, chugging along, just kind of playing around with them and everything. Gino had a pretty good game, 25 of 35, 253, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. But then it just seemed like after Debo, someone tried to twist Debo's leg, and he didn't like that too much. He decided to air his grievances out on the field. Hey, man. And once again, Brock Purdy, Mr., as they call him, irrelevant, last pick of the draft, all he does is keep going out there. Man, it's got to be. Look, I'm sorry. Shanahan got to be coach of the year because he's had 3 different quarterbacks and has not stopped. And I mean, there's some other guys that need to be considered. Doug Peterson, I will give him all the credit in Jacksonville. Again, what my man in Detroit has done with that squad over there. Hell, I even give Pete Carroll some nod because he knew when to get rid of Russell Wilson's ass and make Geno not only look like a retread, but comeback player of the daggum year, as if he went somewhere. So there's a lot of names out there for coach of the year but to watch a coach have different signal callers in one season, and you just quarterback is not a plug and play position. Mm-mm. You can't just do that. You just can't say, okay, he hurt. Okay, you get in and keep it going. And all the dude has done is he keeps throwing touchdowns to no interceptions. So he's keeping the ball out of harm's way, yet he's putting up 300 yards. Hello, Baker. Are you watching this guy? You went from being the first pick. He was the last pick. And oh my God, the last dude looked a whole lot better than the first dude. How does that happen? That's like being on the show The Bachelor. And even though, or The Bachelorette, and even though she done went through all the guys and you supposed to be the main guy, at the end, she go, you know what? Who was the first guy I got rid of?
Yeah.
I changed my mind. I want him. That's what happened to you, Baker. So in reverse. Anyway, I'm happy that about Baker Mayfield, but it's just impressive how Mr. Irrelevant is now very, very relevant in getting this team
Oh yeah.
continue to run. And it's not as if he's just handing the ball off. Now, the caveat I will say, when you have Deebo Samuel, they can sit there and break a tackle and run for 60 yards. that does pad your stats. But
yeah.
still, having the confidence to do that, get it in your playmaker's hands, those are still his stats. I can't take none of them away from him. I mean, he was 18 of 30, so that's pretty efficient. He didn't throw a lot, but he made the most of his throws. McCaffrey, 15 carries for 119, damn near 8 yards a carry. Deebo, 3 carries, 32 yards, 10 yards a carry. Brock ran 4 times for 16 yards. I mean, these numbers are crazy. Deebo, 6 catches, 133 yards. You get 73 yards. So they turned it on and they just beat the brakes off of them. They ended up winning 41-23. And Anthony had asked us, Rand, he said, question, put your GM cap on. Brock is playing good. No. Brock is playing great. No expectations whatsoever. And he's playing as if he'd been playing, as if he was the starter out of training camp. So anyway, and I knew this question was going to come, though. Brock is playing good. What are you doing with Trey Lance and Jimmy G? That's a great problem to have, isn't it?
It is a great problem to have, man. It is. And it's a question that they're going to have to contend with all off season. You know, I would like to see what Brock does in a big moment. He's going to have this big moment this coming week, playing against the Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to see. Dallas is a good defense. This is primetime football. He'll be playing on a national stage. I know it was one thing to go out and beat Seattle, but it's going to be a whole nother deal playing against the quote unquote so-called America's team.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of pressure. I want to see how he handles that big moment. If he shines in that big moment and he continues to shine through this postseason, I don't see a reason to put him on the bench when you start the 2023 this fall.
It's going to be hard because but I think, honestly, what's going to happen is Brock Purdy has played himself into the number 2 quarterback. I think they're still going to go with Trey Lance only because they may be of the mind that you don't let a quarterback lose his job to injury, which is crap. But they also a lot of these owners and GMs are very egotistical when it comes to, hey, we drafted the guy so high, we need to give him the nod. And a lot of times, to me, sometimes that's too much stock that they put in. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. This is the only reason Carson Wentz has gotten another starting position on a team, 3 teams in 3 years, is because he was a number 1 pick. If he had been Mr. Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, he never would have made it to Indianapolis. Or if he did, he damn sure wouldn't have made it to Washington. Or same thing with Baker. He would not be a Ram right now. Once the Panthers released him, he'd have to play his way onto a team through training camp in the offseason. But because they see these guys as number 1 picks and think, well, he was a number 1 pick, that must mean something, that has to go for something. I don't know. Ask Ryan Leaf and some of those other guys how that worked out. So being the number 1 overall pick doesn't necessarily. Ask Marcus Russell how that worked. Or what's my man named Vince? What was the name? Vince
Young.
Yeah, Vince Young. Ask him how that happened. He didn't have a long career. So, but they try to get these guys opportunity after opportunity. Brock Purdy is playing with house money. You're the last pick of the draft. Hell, by all means, you ain't even supposed to make the team. They picked you because they had to pick somebody. That's how you got on this team. San Francisco, you have the last pick. We ready to go home. Oh man, it's a pretty day outside. Hey, we can get Purdy. That's it. That's how they got him. So I don't know. That's what happened. I wasn't in the war room, but I'm just assuming, you know, they're looking outside going, "They show is a pretty day out here. He's pretty," you know. But anywho, I think they're gonna go Trey. They definitely are gonna move on from Jimmy. Jimmy did them a favor because I think he increased his value as far as trading him and his contract, so that a teammate like a Houston may feel more compelled to go after him because now there's some good game tape on him. Even though the worry about Jimmy is he can never stay healthy. And that's followed him everywhere he's gone. But when healthy, he's a very serviceable quarterback. They still want to turn the reins over to Trey Lance. And I think now, if Lance struggles, now you may have a little bit of a controversy because then when last seen, Brock Purdy done took you to the NFC Championship game.
Oh yeah. It'll be another Trubisky and Kenny Pickett situation in Pittsburgh where
he struggles early.
Extremely short leash. He's out of there.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna get him off that field quicker than they get you off the Apollo stage. Man can't get you that fast. But yeah, if he struggles early, there's definitely going to be a quarterback controversy. Or I will tell you this, it may not even come to that. It's going to even depend in the offseason. I think, me personally, if I was Mike Shanahan, I'd go to Trey and I'd go to Brock and I'd say, hey, listen, guys, this may sound a little unconventional, but this is going to be a quarterback competition. I'm not announcing a starter until the end of July.
Yeah, you very well may have that, because you are right about one thing. Once you invest that high in a quarterback, they're going to give that quarterback every single opportunity to fail.
Yep.
So after he comes back from injury this time around, I'm sure he will have a starter job, but it might be a quarterback battle like you were talking about.
Yeah. And I think that's fair because to me, I'm always of the mind that iron sharpens iron. So when you got somebody it was kind of like when Chicago sat there and anointed Andy Dalton the starter before Justin Fields even sat there and touched the football. I think even though, Justin probably should have waited and everything else, you kind of still want to put a little bit pressure on the guy to say, hey, we're going to bring you in, but you're going to have to sing for your dinner, bro. You're going to earn this. Anthony says Zach Wilson failed when he threw his first pick. So, yeah, because then he kept on following up with more. And here's the thing. Not only did Zach Wilson fail in that respect, but then you let your backup play better than you. Hell, you even let old 85-year-old Joe Flacco shine you sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't look better than Flacco and Mike White, who is playing that much better, it's like when you're dating a girl. And you're in love, and man, she bad. She real bad. She fun. And she good. But then you start to realize that there's some other girls out there that know a lot more tricks. And they just as fine, if not a little bit finer. Is willing to do a little bit more. And all of a sudden you be like, who? Yeah, Zach, you didn't give him nothing to remember. When you got hurt, it was easy to pull away from you, or when you started all this immaturity stuff, it was easier for him to kind of, we're going to let you just sit for a little bit. Get yourself fully healthy. Get your head in the right place. We'll be all right. We'll just struggle through with Mike White. They weren't struggling. He was playing his tail off.
Yeah.
So, you have to make somebody want to miss you. You have to give them a reason to say, hey, when healthy, we got to go immediately back to this guy because he gives us the best chance to win. You could see a totally different team out there, whether it was Flacco or whether it was Mike White. So that's a very hard thing for Zach Wilson. That's going to be interesting to see how this offseason goes, to see if they say, hey, we picked him so high, we're going to have to go back and give him another opportunity. I think Robert Saleh is really going to do that. And he needs to be careful because I don't know how long his leash is. He's done some great things, but at the end of the day, you are in the New York market.
Yep.
And you've already given them a taste of success. So you can't backslide with Zach Taylor, or with Zach Wilson. You're going to have to continue to make progress. And if you start backsliding with Zach Wilson and you refuse to acknowledge he's holding you back and you don't move forward with somebody else, they're going to get you up out of there.
Yeah, fans in that New York market are not going to be patient anymore with Zach Wilson. And I think his bottom came when they had that national primetime game against Jacksonville, in which Zach Wilson couldn't move the ball, couldn't do nothing, could barely get across the 50-yard line. They end up yanking him for the third string, Chris Streveler, or whoever it was they put him in the game for.
Right.
That was his bottom right there, man. So I believe that was the last time that we even saw Zach Wilson. So to bring him back on opening day, that's going to be a really, really short leash.
Yeah, I would do the same thing that I said about Trey and Purdy. I'd sit down Zach, I'd sit down Mike White, Stribbler, and I say, hey, listen, I'm not announcing the starter till the end of July. So I know OTAs are not OTAs. I know a lot of some of the stuff is voluntary, but I would assume the sooner you come in and get a feel for the playbook and stuff like that, we're going to divide up reps and all that stuff. And whoever is starting to peak as the favorite, they'll end up getting more than lion's share of the reps and stuff like that. And you just go at it from that and to say, hey, nothing is off the table. I'm not anointing anybody anything in the preseason until the end of July. Unless somebody just overly outplays somebody at the beginning of July and I'm ready to make an announcement, I'm not going to be in any hurry to announce a starter and make them go get it. See who your dog is. I don't think it's Zach Wilson. I don't think he's your dog.
I don't either, man. I've seen enough to kind of think that, that just ain't the guy that's going to get the job done. I think that is a bust for a draft pick.
I do too. And I think the reason that you open up the competition that way is to say, I didn't take it from you. You didn't earn it.
Exactly.
So then when I have to explain to the higher ups and everything and say, hey, you want me to win games or you want me to stay committed to this bust?
Yep. And you were given every opportunity.
Every opportunity. We brought him back. Even when everybody, we filtered out the noise from the outside to say, get rid of this bum. We brought him back, gave him a fair quarterback competition. He knows our system just as much as the other guys. So it wasn't like they had a leg up on him and everything else. It was his position to lose. Let him lose it, you taking it away from him.
We drafted Garrett Wilson, a very capable wide receiver for you, and you already had two other wide receivers there already. So
exactly,
you got a trio of wide receivers. You got a good running back and a good line. So were you given every opportunity?
And your defense is lights out.
Yeah. Were you given every opportunity to succeed? Yes, sir, you were.
Yep. That's it. So, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we got the Niners. We got the Jaguars. The Bills, man. The Bills had to hang on to beat the Dolphins.
Crazy, man.
This game should not have happened the way that it did. Y'all let Skylar Thompson, Bills, come in 18 of 45, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and still almost come away with a W in the frozen tundra that is Orchard Park.
Just never know. You just never know. Speaking of third string quarterbacks, here's another one on a big stage. Comes in and doesn't have a very good statistical game, but at least keeps them in it.
Made it very, very interesting. I mean, at halftime, it was only 17-20. They kept it interesting. They really did. I mean, Buffalo didn't score in the fourth quarter. This was Miami's game. And it just, if Tua Tagovailoa had been in that game,
it'd have been different. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You think Buffalo overlooked them?
I do.
I do too.
I really do. I think they just penciled them in. And I'm glad they used pencil instead of ink. But they just penciled them in and said, "Hey, we're gonna sit there and hey, Risa West." They just penciled them in and we're looking ahead, and it almost ended up biting them in the tail. I mean, Tyreek
So
didn't
we
even
just
have
got
a
finished talking about your Jets. You should
Oh
have logged
Lord,
on earlier.
yeah, talking about giving Zach Wilson another bite at the apple. No pun intended. Okay, maybe a little pun intended.
Okay.
Another bite at the apple, but also opening it up as a quarterback competition, not giving it to him. But good thing I missed it. I was okay. I have a good friend that lives in north of the Bronx, and her and her husband. I used to call them the Pain Gang because he's a Giants fan and she's a Jets fan. And I'm like, well, y'all just love pain on Sundays. Then both of y'all probably just be crying all day. And that was before this year though, where both of them actually started looking like New York. Anthony says that game showed Mike McDaniel needs to learn clock management. Yes, and he will get there. First year as a head coach, he worked that stuff out. First time being a head coach, he gonna work that stuff out. But he got a lot of good pieces around him. Once they can figure out the whole Tua thing, and this young man's health going forward, making sure that Tua isn't. I heard somebody talking about Tua's trying to play for all the folks back in Hawaii and all his family and everything. And if you've got that kind of pressure on you to say you good, if you're not good, that can mess up a lot of stuff too. So we're gonna need some people around Tua to try to make sure that Tua's making the best decisions for Tua and not family or anybody else, but for himself first and foremost.
Right.
Because we have already been scared to death about a player going down on the field. We don't need to see that happen with Tua. But concussions are real, and they really, really need to get a handle on how his offseason goes before they go forward. But if he's healthy and he's able to return, hey, I'm ready to see what froze. Did I freeze? I hope I didn't freeze. Risa said froze. Maybe she froze.
Maybe she froze, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I mean that's going to be a formidable team in the AFC East. My fear is they may have missed. Oh, her video froze. Gotcha. My fear is, did Miami miss their opportunity with New England being down? Is New England still down? Will they be down next year? With the Jets ascending, did Miami miss their chance? If the Bills continue to be at the top, the best you can get out of Miami is third or fourth. And that's not going to be good enough to get out of the AFC.
That's a good point, Brian. I think they did miss their shot, man, to be honest, because the Jets are going to be better next year if they find a quarterback, and I think they will. I think they'll figure that out. But that defense is lights out. They'll probably add another piece to that defense and make it even better. So the Jets are going to be there. I know they finished last place this year, but I mean, hell, they were 7-3 for the most part until they hit a skid and started losing games. But I think they'll be in it because of their defense. New England's they're gonna be back. They're gonna have a formidable defense as well. Another year of progress with Mac Jones. Maybe New England gets an offensive coordinator. I think they realize their mistake of not having one this year, but I see them as being back. So
we do.
Buffalo definitely ain't going nowhere.
That's a crowded division.
That's a crowded division. So
the opposite of the NFC South.
So as talented as Miami is on that offensive side of the ball, I mean it's going to be a war next year, man.
Yeah. I think those divisional games that you play and those conference games, I mean those your division games that you play are going to be so important. Because my God, you can go beat up everybody else outside of the division in the conference, but when you have to play each other head up, that's where it's going to come down to probably.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to that. So this is going to be an interesting division to see next year, because from top to bottom, they're pretty strong.
Yeah, remember the fits that we went through trying to pick out who's gonna be 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the AFC West this preseason. But come next preseason, I think it's gonna be the AFC East. How does that line up?
Exactly. Totally agree. So yeah, so the Bills lived to fight another day. That happened. And then we also had a game that I picked. I just had a feeling that them New York Football Giants was going to go into Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, with the bright lights, Monday Night Football, and shock the world. Now, I did not know that it was going to be, because Daniel Jones was going to go 24-35, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and 17 carries for 78 yards, which were more carries and more yards than even Saquon Barkley. Even though Saquon did more short yardage touchdowns, he did have 2 touchdowns as well. So Saquon definitely made his presence felt in the game. But your best runner was your quarterback. Now, anybody that didn't know that Daniel Jones had some legs when he wasn't tripping himself hadn't been really watching for quite some time. Daniel Jones's biggest issue hasn't been his ability to take off and run. His problem up through the beginning of this year had been ball security, fumbling the ball, putting the ball on the ground, throwing the ball to the other team, those kind of things. That has been his Achilles heel. But him just taking off and running, yeah, dude can run.
Yeah, he got some legs, man.
He got some legs.
Game of his career, no doubt, no doubt. Hats off to him, phenomenal job. Yes. On the other side of the football field, Kirk Cousins, you are the biggest dumbass I've ever seen put on a football helmet. You throw a 3-yard out to a guy that is covered already when it's 4th down and 8 and the season is on the line. What the hell are you thinking?
4th and 8, season on the line, even though Hockenson had been your all-everything receiver, your tight end is your leading receiver by a mile. Listen to this. Hockenson had 10 receptions for 129 yards. The next in line was Adam Thielen, 3 receptions for 50 yards. Justin Jefferson, 7 receptions for 47 yards. You know, if your season is on the line, Hockenson is not the guy. It's supposed to be Justin Jefferson. Definitely. And why, when you know 4th and 8 means if you do not convert this, the game is over.
Season's over.
Season is over. You know, you throw a 3-yard pass, that means that to a covered receiver, knowing that he would have to some way, somehow find 5 more yards. From
after
where?
Breaking a tackle. It was the dumbest thing I ever seen. One of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
So that's about situational football. If it was 4-down territory and that was 3rd down and you did that, no problem.
No.
You got another down to get 5 yards. Totally got no problem. I'd throw it underneath if it was 4-down territory. If my first look didn't look good for that 1st down pass and I needed to throw it a little bit underneath and I knew I had another down, go for it. Do it. That was a 3rd and 6 pass, not a 4th and 8 pass.
Exactly, man. It was just so crazy when I saw that. It's like, does he know the down and the distance? It kind of reminded me of
Brady.
Remember Cleveland Cavaliers when it was in the NBA Finals, and old boy didn't know the time remaining on the clock.
Oh my God! Yes.
And, LeBron got all over him for it. I think
It's the
what he do?
mental blocks, man.
Yeah, yes. I think he got a rebound or something and didn't take a timeout, and everybody was
Right.
screaming for one. It was something like that. I done forgot the play.
It's situational. Y'all got you have to know you got to have certain plays for a 4th and 8 that are different that end the game. You just got to have that. And I mean, y'all had all the time in the world to get into his ear and make sure that he understood the situation. Kurt, we got to move the chains. Season over. Got to move the chains and go for it. If you threw it to Justin Jefferson and it get picked off, you throw it to Justin Jefferson and he drops the ball. You throw it to Justin Jefferson and it sailed a little bit too high. Hey, we can live with that. But
Live
you
with
know
that.
damn well throwing 3 yards to your tight end and he gonna need 5 more isn't gonna do any. You might as well have just spiked the ball
Right.
because you came away with the same result. Nothing. So I don't know what that got you other than 3 more yards onto your stats.
Right.
Maybe he said, "Damn, I'm at 270." There we go, 273. I did it. You like that? No, Kurt, we don't like that. So that was crazy. But give it up to the Giants, though. I mean, nobody gave them a snowball's chance of hell in going in there other than me, and actually pulling that game out. And I just thought that they were what I've seen the Giants do this year definitely hasn't been a fluke. To see the NFC East do what they did and rebound and turn into a formidable conference was really, really good to see. Rand, we had another game where the Baltimore Ravens with Tyler Huntley had one of the craziest plays I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. I'm still talking about the Hubbard return for a touchdown.
Oh my God.
Woo, boy.
Man, I mean, how does that happen? So,
Yeah.
I mean, so the Ravens really were in a position to run in and take the lead. I think Lamar could have played that game. We'll talk about that in the second half of the day. I'm definitely going to go there because even J.K. Dobbins intimated that if Tyler Huntley shouldn't have been in that position because no one, he thought he should have had the ball, which I kind of agree with him. But they were trying to sneak it. Now Tyler's no bum. I mean, he's pretty athletic, but the ball got away from him. And if you don't know, the ball got away from him as he's trying to go into across the goal line to score, and the ball somehow gets out of his hands, falls right into a Cincinnati defensive player, and he runs the ball all the way back and scores. Just amazing. Just like, okay, that's what we're doing. So, yeah, he played a decent game, 17-29, 226, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Dobbins to that point, 13 carries, 62 yards. He'd been your bellwether back, but give Huntley credit. He also ran 9 times for 54 yards, so he had been running well. Gus Edwards, 12 for 39. So their running game had been doing pretty well. I don't know what it is with Cincinnati playing their divisional guys. Paul Copeland, what's going on?
What's up?
But when they play their divisional opponents, man, they just don't really seem like themselves. And people will say, well, they know them and they play them twice a year and that kind of thing. And I get that. There's something to be said for that. But I thought Cincinnati was just going to blow them off the map and it wouldn't even come down to that. Hey, fellas, what's going on, sir? But there was a lot of talk, a lot of players trying to back up Lamar. But Lamar also caught a lot of criticism because he didn't even show up to the game. Didn't travel to the game. And a lot of folks kind of looked at that as Lamar, once he got hurt, basically decided to shut himself down. He didn't say that, but it's kind of obvious that, and even I think Michael Vick gave him a little bit of a thing about putting on a brace and getting out there and playing and stuff like that. Here's the thing. If Lamar had a contract, I'm sure he would have. I honestly believe if Lamar had a contract, he would have done everything. But at this point, his rationale is I'm already hurt. Why risk it? And Lamar, here's a question that we've had since August. Why are you going out there? Because what happened to you then could have happened to you in the first game of the season. The fact that it didn't doesn't mean that it couldn't. It just means you got lucky till the end. The problem is, even with or without a contract, you do what you normally do. You get hurt at the end of the year and you don't finish the season. So now
Yep.
you got two things running together with each other, where it looks like you can't stay healthy. So why are we going to sit there and give you a contract? And then the report came out too that they had offered him $133 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
And it was a $200 million contract, 133 guaranteed. And he was like, no. And some people are like, hey, that's kind of insulting to give him that. But at the time, that was if you throw out the Deshaun Watson contract, that was one of the biggest guarantees that had been out there. The fact that Cleveland did what they did is now putting Lamar in a unsustainable. What's up, Eric Ashcraft? What's going on, E? It's kind of putting them in a position to try to defend. We can't give you what they did for Deshaun because they should have never done it. And now we got to realign your salary to make it make sense for everybody. There was that meme that I commented on, Rand, where you saw it, where it was talking about the top 4 paid quarterbacks missed the playoffs.
Yep. It's going to be a continuing trend, man. I don't see them 4 quarterbacks being in the mix for this coming year either, as far as playoffs is concerned.
Definitely Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson. That ain't happening.
Nope. Still
Aaron Rodgers was the other one, right?
Yeah.
No.
So as far as Lamar and his situation, it's as the world turns, man. I can't wait to just sit back and see what Baltimore is going to do, how they're going to handle it. It's going to be an interesting summer.
Definitely. Anthony says only way to give Lamar what he wants, you have to cut some players. Well, here's the thing. When you pay a quarterback like that, he's got to be able to make your team better, because you're not going to be able to go out and get certain guys. So he's going to have to be the guy that doesn't need everything perfect around him, a la Jimmy G and those kind of players, to be able to make things work. Sorry, Paul. When you look at it that way, is paying Lamar that type of money going to significantly make your team better? You always, and people say, well, does Lamar give you a chance to win the Super Bowl? When healthy, of course he does, because of his talent. But when you look at it in a 17-game season and then add playoffs to it, can Lamar hold up to get you to the point of having that argument? I don't know. I haven't seen it. So
Nope.
Are we going to just throw all this money at him for something that we kind of think possibly, sort of, maybe kind of could happen? I don't think you do that. I think
I wouldn't do it.
And to me, again, I bring it up on every show. He has no leverage.
No,
he can't. I mean, he can hold out, but you can tag him, and you hold on his rights. Tyler Huntley played a decent enough game where I'd be okay if Tyler was day one starter. I really would be, as long as I still got Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and some of these other guys out there. Yeah, I'll take my chances.
And here's the other thing with Lamar. What is his signature playoff moment? What is it?
Fumbling and interceptions?
Yeah, what is it? What's his signature playoff win? Got one? I can't think of one. But he wants to be paid Watson guaranteed money when he doesn't have any signature moments.
Yep.
And he's not healthy at the end of the year when the Baltimore Ravens need him the most.
Yep.
Like I said, man, as the world turns, I'll be sitting back eating popcorn. It ain't my problem. So I'll
right.
be
And as Paul said, and I totally agree. I've never agreed with a bad contract setting the market. Amen to that, brother.
Amen.
Hey, Paul says Niners versus the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, ? I'm leaning Bengals now, but still not so funny now.
Very, very good possibility. I mean, I got the Niners going all the way in the NFC, so we'll take that half and put it to bed. But AFC.
Paul, are you saying that you think that the Bills aren't going to make it past this weekend?
That's what it sounds like.
That's what it
Kind of
sounds
leaning
like.
that way. Yeah, kind of leaning that way.
So you're saying that the Bengals are going to take care of the Bills, but then the Chiefs are ultimately, you say yes, are going to then take care of. Now, I don't know who the weaker team is for the Chiefs. Who would the Chiefs rather see? Would they rather see the Bills? Well, if they see the Bills, the game gets played in Atlanta. Isn't that how that's going to go?
Yeah.
And then if it's the Bengals, then the Bengals would go to, is that right? Or is it the Bengals? The Bengals and the Bills. Okay, yeah. The Bengals have to play the Bills. But then if the Bills win, then the game is neutral. Joe Burrow just lost his O-line again. That man is done. It says Anthony. Yeah, I kind of think the Bills may win that game. And if it's the Bills and the Chiefs, are you sure Mahomes got enough for them? I don't know. That's a toss to me. That's what when you look at the spread of the game and it's just 3 points and it's for the home team, I can see that being one of them games. Either way.
Yeah.
I think if the Chiefs play the Bengals, the Chiefs have a better chance against the Bengals than the Bills.
It's gonna be tough pickings from here on out, man.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be hard,
except for the Jacksonville game.
well, I don't know, because I also think the 49ers game is going to be pretty snooze fest too. So the Cowboys put Tom Brady out of his misery. Bills defense is up and down. That is true, Anthony. Cowboys beat the Bucks. I was hoping Tom Brady was going to have one more game of magic that him and Mike Evans found against Carolina with all them touchdown passes, but it wasn't to be. And Cowboy fans, I'll give them credit. Most of them have been very, very quiet this week because they know that if anything, Tampa was your tune-up game. Anything you need to find out about your team, I hope you found out about it. I hope y'all going over in the meetings because Brock Purdy, up until this point, has looked like a better quarterback than one Dakota Rain Prescott. Rain Dakota Prescott. Says his name backwards. But we'll see. Like you said earlier in the show, we'll see now Brock Purdy. Hey, man, these are the Cowboys. This is America's team. They got Micah Parsons. They got Trayvon Diggs. We're going to see how this is going to rock. Anthony says they fired Leftwich. There's no reason Brady should be throwing over 60 times. He ain't had no choice.
No run game.
Did anybody see playoff Lenny? See, they got rid of Ronald Jones and thought, hey, playoff Lenny, we good. And that didn't happen. So Paul says, Purdy. And so, I mean, it's kind of funny to see all of this now, the way it's kind of played out. Leftwich, yeah, I know. Tom Brady threw the second most times, only behind one Ben Roethlisberger, who threw 67 times in a playoff game, or 67, 68, something like that, which is crazy when I heard that stat.
Yeah, he lost too, though.
Yeah, the Yankees are America's team. Amen to that, brother.
Damn straight. Right.
Damn straight. It would be the New York Yankees and my man, Mr. AJ. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting now. We're going to see the Cowboys against the 49ers. Who are you taking in that one?
I think the Niners blow Dallas out. That's just me. I think Dallas hit their ceiling when they won against Tampa. I think Dak played the game of his life. I don't see 2 straight games of his life.
Me either.
I think the 49ers blow them out, at least by 10.
There you go. I'm with you on that. Paul had said, I said the Niners and Chiefs in the Super Bowl to start the season. Now he's leaning Bengals. Yeah, the Chiefs have a tendency to play down to their competition, or instead of blowing them out, they kind of let them linger around. And that always scares me about the Chiefs. And we'll see how that goes. We also have the Giants and the Eagles. a game that if you would have said that at the beginning of the year, most people would laugh at you and say there ain't no way in the world that Big Blue got anything for them Eagles. And now I honestly don't know. I'm going to say they have a shot.
They do.
They do have a shot. I still think Philly's going to pull it out, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than we would have procrastinated at the beginning of the year. So
I agree with that as well.
That's going to be an amazing game. We already talked about the Bills and the Bengals. That's going to be an interesting game too. I'm going to lean a little bit more on. See, here's the problem. Is Josh Allen going to use his team, or is he going to try to do too much? Is he going to throw 4 picks and then have to run for 2 touchdowns and throw for another one to get himself out of the hole that he digs? Or is he going to play within himself in the game? Sometimes I think he just tries too hard.
The concern I have with the Bills is that they lost a heartbreaker in Kansas City last year. I know they want revenge for that game. So I'm hoping they're not looking past Cincinnati and into Kansas City.
Right.
Because they can be shocked by the Bengals.
If they do that, that is true. Hey, Paul, it's funny you say that. Paul says Daboll for Coach of the Year. And it's funny because you know who I said as the leading candidate for Coach of the Year? I said Shanahan. Now, my reasoning was, now you could say this 2 different ways, though, Rand. I brought up the fact that you've had 3 signal callers in 1 year, and you still just chugging along. Hell, you 1 game away from the conference championship with your 3rd quarterback. Your third, Mr. Irrelevant is your quarterback.
Yeah.
You got other dudes at home that were drafted in the 1st and 2nd round. Mr. Irrelevant is leading your team to the divisional, and if he wins that, then he's going to the conference. So, and then he's only 1 game away from the Super Bowl. So my point is that, man, Shanahan, was he able to sit there and give Purdy the whole playbook like he gave Garoppolo and Trey Lance? I don't know, but he's played within himself. I won't argue against Shanny. Now, the only other logic against what I said is somebody could come back to me and say, well, Brian, doesn't that ultimately prove then that these are quarterbacks that if they play in that system, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is? Still a hell of a coach to be able to come up with a system that he could put any quarterback in to do that.
Yeah, because I believe all 3 of those quarterbacks are different. I don't think it's just a quarterback system.
Yeah, that's true. They're totally different. They're all
totally different. I think he adjusted things. So him being Coach of the Year, I could definitely see that. Of course, I'm going to be leaning towards my boy Tomlin for doing what he did as well. Give him at least some mention.
He definitely.
But Shanny, I could definitely see Shanny. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my God, they ball because of the turnaround. Totally agree. Because especially not so much with Saquon. I expected Saquon to get better. He's a homer.
Acknowledged.
And unapologetic too.
Unapologetic, baby. Unapologetic.
So yeah, I definitely agree that Daboll should definitely be in that conversation because what he was able to do with that team after the whole Joe Judge experiment and Gettleman doing all his crazy machinations and stuff to actually see that franchise. I think the NFL is a better franchise when the New York Giants are in the playoffs. I do. Because that's a hard fan base not to be able to have them in there. That's why it's so hard seeing Denver right now. They should be in there. All 3 are deserving. Absolutely. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
Doug Peterson. You can't leave Doug Peterson out of that mix either.
I brought him up earlier too, especially what he was able to do with coming in after that whole debacle. Las Vegas had a debacle and they didn't do too well. So all debacles aren't the same. Houston had a debacle. They didn't do well with it. Peterson goes down to Jacksonville and says Hey, Sunshine. Hey, dude. Like, man, come on. No, I even say that dude's from Atlanta, but he just looks like a surfer. But what he's been able to do with Trevor Lawrence, we are seeing the coming out party for Trevor Lawrence. So that game against the Chiefs, that's going to be tighter than people think it's going to be.
You think so?
Chiefs going to have to pull away in the fourth quarter on that game. They're going to give him three. They're going to give him 3 quarters.
All right. You on record.
I'm on record. They're going to give it. If the Chiefs win that game, it will not have been said by halftime. They're going to have to pull that out they tail in the fourth quarter. Mark it down. I can't win that mountaintop, but I can pick games because I picked the games other than your primetime games. Paul says on the way out, is Mark Davis the worst owner in the NFL? Well, I don't know. You got Daniel Snyder out there. As long as he's still an owner, he kind of keeping up the stench. There's a couple of them. I kind of think Jerry Jones is just as bad, only because a GM and an owner should never be the same person. That's like being your own. That's like being your own lawyer. You know.
I'm still sticking with Houston for the dumping ground of the NFL.
Yes, toxic waste even. So yeah. I agree with you on that one. So, oh yeah, Snyder. So yeah, but he's definitely in the bottom. I mean, well, bottom. He's in the top 5 as despicable. So yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us for another week. We will do this all again next Wednesday. I am Brian Parker with my co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove. Y'all take care, and we will see y'all again next week.